Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to a new Connect University session. This time, a session on augmented reality, new frontiers and applications. For those of you who are new here, which are coming from the outside and might see us for the first time, Connect University has been running since 2015 and is the knowledge sharing flagship of DigiConnect, with the aim and purpose to share the latest developments in digital trends, as well as inform you and colleagues, of course, about the latest digital policies that we develop. We do this because we try and put at the same table us EU institutions together with industry, academia, and international organizations in trying to find, let's say, inspiration from one another, as well as trying to overcome possible future threats to digital policymaking. For those of you who have not yet joined via Slido, but do via YouTube, we do invite you there, because if you join Slido using the hashtag, the code Augmented Reality, you will be able to ask questions towards the speakers, and we will make sure that they make their ways towards them. And in case you share any insights on social media, we encourage everyone to also use the hashtag ConnectUniversity to gather all your thoughts in the same place. For those of you that cannot stay till the end, a recording will be made available both on the Digital EU YouTube channel as well as on Futurium. Now, for our session on today on augmented reality, we have three speakers. Unfortunately, Theodoros cannot make it. He is unfortunately ill after a conference, so we will try and compensate by taking more of your questions. So in terms of those of us still here, we have Anne Bahart, Deputy Head of Unit in DigiConnect on the unit of Interactive Technologies, Digital Culture and Education. Gregory Maubon, co-founder and president of RAPro, and Natasha Paulson, founder of 4DR Studios. I see everyone already started to reply to our polls, so that's really great. So then maybe I leave now to Anne to say a few words about this and then hand off to you. Anne, please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Just give me a second to share my slides. Why is it that it's not? Okay. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our colleagues in Brussels. Unfortunately, we could not make it as we are based in Luxembourg. Most of you should know it. It was a bit difficult to be so early in Brussels, but of course, I miss you a bit. I would have loved to be in the room with you. And good morning to everyone following from outside on our different channels. We are really delighted to know that some people also from outside the EU and the institutions can really listen to us. I'm gonna just give you a couple of remarks and information about what we are doing related to augmented reality in Europe, what we are currently doing and what we are planning for the future. And you will see in my talk that I go a bit beyond augmented reality as well, because this is relatively natural when we talk about it, that we extend it to extended reality indeed. So for those of you who don't know our unit, just a very quick reminder that we are Interactive Technologies Digital for Culture and Education unit, and we are dealing with different beasts there, even if there are very close links in between all these topics. So we are working on extended reality for already quite some time now, and also virtual worlds and metaverses. We are taking care of a couple of sectoral data spaces, each of them basically with quite an interesting interactive technology dimension in it, cultural heritage, media, and tourism. And we are also, in charge of the portfolio for education, technologies, and skills fit for the digital decade, where once again there are, some links because extended reality is one of the fancy technology used there. So this is a big bunch of things. And if we go really to what we are doing related to augmented reality, it's part of a bigger package where we basically work with interactive technologies, meaning multimodal technologies, extended reality, virtual worlds, and metaverses. We are, in charge of defining the policy at EC level with a coming initiative on virtual worlds. I will say a couple of words about it later on. We are also funding quite many projects in research, innovation, development, deployment, and also cross-cutting aspects linked to all these technologies. And we are coordinating, and trying to build a European ecosystem. Amongst other tools that we have the AR/VR coalition, and we of course have close links with many of our colleagues working with other domains that are absolutely essential for the development of extended reality in Europe: AI, 6G, cloud computing, edge computing, digital twins, blockchain, and many others. Extended reality and augmented reality are basically going mainstream. This is not a dream anymore. And I just had a look at the answers that you put in Slido about our first questions. And indeed, you can see emerging from your answers are three usual suspects: Pokemon Go, Instagram, and IKEA. Basically, the three examples of augmented reality mainstream applications that we have seen in the last 2-3 years. But extended reality can be used in many different sectors, for learning, for surgery, for leisure, for cultural heritage, for maintenance, for multimodal interaction in whatever setting, for design and constructions, and of course for entertainment. Our speakers will give you a deeper insight about this in a minute, but it's just to show that, this is really heavily used and to be probably even more heavily used in the next years in many different sectors. The thing is that we are talking about different things. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to understand exactly what we are talking about. So, here is a slide with some attempt of definitions. Please bear in mind that they are not official definitions. They are just my attempt to explain to you what we are doing. So you have virtual reality, where it's really about building through a computer simulation a virtual world. You have augmented reality, where you enhance or augment the real world with digital information coming on the top of it. So it's not really building a full virtual world, it's taking what is there and adding something. You have mixed reality, where you can basically at the same time see the real world and a virtual environment together. So it's a bit more elaborated than augmented reality. Then you have the term extended reality, which basically encompasses the three other reality that I just mentioned: virtual, augmented, and mixed. Then you have virtual worlds, where you are really talking about the environments. And then you have the metaverses, where you basically put together different virtual worlds. So, all these worlds basically are a bit different, but at the same time, refer to the same concept of creating something with which we, by computer, to which we can interact. XR today, as I said, is definitely moving from hype to reality. The interest, has been highly raised by COVID-19. This is clear that at the time where we all started to have to use our computers to do whatever, there was a need to have a better interaction. and also by climate and environmental concerns, because I mean, having meetings like the one we have today online, well, we don't have to travel, we don't have to use the car, we don't have to use the plane. So, I mean, there are some interest there. It's creating value across multiple sectors, as I mentioned already. It's also about data economy, because you can imagine that at the heart of all these things are data. It's about metaverses, it's about platforms, but also rollouts in large companies. It's about increasing the number of applications, engaging users with immersive experiences. I mean, you see many industries or services or companies going for their own XR application, and the technology for it is maturing. We have more capable, comfortable, and affordable devices than, let's say, 10 years ago. We have better infrastructure and faster networks to allow for it. And we have improved capturing and authoring tools to develop applications and devices. However, there are still many challenges to be answered. I mean, it's clear, like for many other domains, we have a domination of non-European corporations when it comes to hardware. The hardware is still expensive. It's more affordable than 10 years ago, but it's still quite a bit of money if you want to buy a good headset. There is a lack of bandwidth for XR on the go, high expectations on 5G and even 6G, but it still has to materialize. We have a lack of widely accepted standards, which is really a big problem, because if we want interoperability and open systems, I mean, we need to be sure that European players are really involved and can really help developing standards according to our values and make sure that all these things are open. We have the copyright issues. I mean, to reuse content is something that comes again and again when we discuss to people developing applications. There is a lack of skills in industry. I mean, many industries tell us that they struggle to find the right persons to develop tools and to use even tools. And XR solutions are not only about technology, they are also about artistic skills. And so we need also people who are really multidisciplinary in these things. And then there is a bit of a lack of market opportunities in Europe because of the size, while, for example, in the States, we see large consumer companies calling for applications, while in our case, it's still very much at the beginning of this kind of activities. Then we have the issues of social awareness and acceptance. I mean, there are an awful lot of questions as soon as people want to use it. It's about privacy, ownership of your data, cybersecurity, legal consequences of immersive experience, psychological effects, but also, health effects if you use a headset for too long. All of this is heavily studied with sometimes recommendations, sometimes not yet recommendations, but it's clear that we have to make sure that this is tackled as well if we want it to become a success for Europe. We have been funding this for quite a long time. I mean, this is just a reminder of a couple of calls we had in the last 2 years dealing with different topics for research, but also for specific domain like telepresence, media, haptics, modeling, and so on. And I would just like to show you 4 projects that are specifically dealing with augmented reality. So we have e-try-on, where you can basically try garments online. So this is quite, obvious for augmented reality that this is an application that has some promises in it. We have Atlantis, where they are developing tool for indoor augmented and diminished reality experiences. So it's really about helping other people to develop tools. We have Arete, where it's more about the education and the use of augmented reality enhanced tools to support education. And we have Artwin, where it's more about industry and construction and the use of AR in this domain. So this is really to illustrate what I said before, that this can be applied to many different domains. And according to the domains, there are some specificities, but there are also many commonalities. So many of these projects also have different applications and scenarios for testing, where they try the same technology in different settings. So this is quite interesting, and I mean, we are looking forward to have more results from these projects in the next, let's say, 1 year, 2 years to come. And then finally, just a reminder for those of you who would not know about it yet, that in last September, our president has mentioned as one of the key initiatives for 23 for the Commission to be an initiative on virtual worlds such as the metaverse. So, I mean, this should probably come before summer, hopefully. This will be something quite comprehensive, and it will be articulated around 3 different pillars, as our commissioner has announced in his block in September as well: people, technologies, and infrastructure, to make sure that we tackle everything that is needed for this new form of virtual space to be really an asset for Europe as a whole. So the vision you can find, I mean, on the block. If you are more interested, I will not say too much here, but it's obvious that at the heart of it, we will have the European values and rules. It has to be human-centric, trustable, safe, and ethical. We will have all the technological building blocks that we will need to make it happening. We will really try to exploit as the maximum a long tradition of content creation, especially in cultural and media. And we will have to tackle the infrastructure. And I mean, this was already last week announced with the connectivity consultation and so on. So this is the agenda for today. As Alexandru explained, unfortunately, Theodoros cannot make it, but we still have 2 very excellent, inspiring speakers with us, Gregory and Natasha. So I'm pretty sure that this will be interesting, and we will meet again afterwards for a short discussion. So, Alexandru, I give you back the floor.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne, and thank you for our Commission's view on the matter, as well as trying to set up the stage for today a bit, and also especially for clearing some of the terms, because indeed, in everything which is new, you will always have terms which get mixed, which get confused, or might mean the same thing. So thank you for the slide when explaining everything. We now invite you shortly before the next presentation to try and think of the impact of what augmented reality might bring on European society. How do you see it affecting it, or maybe which domains, or if you have any specific keyword which you think would be useful for our discussion in seeing the impact which this might have. And I see everyone is currently typing now. There are quite a few domains. Of course, also Anne covered some of the domains which are affected, and also based on your previous answer, where you used augmented reality, you already saw some of the industries or some of the companies, large organizations, which already have augmented reality more mainstream. So we saw, for example, social media with Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. All of them have very popular filters which keep on going. We have companies that use them in order to sell more. We had some people that went to conferences and used augmented reality. So we have quite a few examples from your life. And I think maybe Anne can say some things of the already existing answers on the impact of AR on European society.
Great, I'm muted. Yeah, it's very much work in progress. I see things moving while I'm speaking, but I mean, I see health as really the center of everything, medical applications and tourism and education, which is indeed some of the applications that for the time being seems to be extremely promising. I'm surprised to see that nobody really mentioned industry, while, for example, when we talk digital twins, I mean, there is already quite a lot done in industry. I mean, regarding this, but it's interesting to see that, you know, I mean, people are really on health and tourism. I mean, games is mentioned as well, because I mean, it's also a big part of it. So yeah, and then some more. It's interesting. It's a bit of everything, and it shows that it's. Thank you for your answers.
Excellent, thank you. So basically now, as I mentioned, we will go further with Gregory Moubon, the co-founder and president of Rapro. He will show everyone the KISS method for an effective dissemination of AR. So the technical team, if you're ready to play, please go ahead.
Hello, thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here to share with you some insight of 10 years of information about hire, especially to small and medium enterprises, SMEs. I'm Grégory Maubon, and I'm the president of Rapro. Rapro is a non-profit association founded in 2011 to promote the development and the use of augmented reality by French-speaking company, institution, and individual. We are a founding member of CNXR, which is the National Council for XR in France, and we operate Agora, a platform to match customer need and professional skills in AR. Company and individual can sign up for the service at no cost, and they are helped to explain their project and finally to find the right partner. For more than 10 years, Rapro has explained the uses of AR for different types of companies in many sectors. We have shown many use cases, and we are able now to expose benefits quantitatively. During the pandemic, we organized a workshop to measure the results of our actions and to understand why AR is not well spread in every company. We are particularly interested by SMEs because we strongly believe that this technology is a competitive advantage. We saw that if a vast majority of our contacts are SMEs, the transformation rate from a question on Agora to a real project is quite low, for us 20%. They are interested by the technology, they know what is it, and often they know how to use it, and they know benefits, but they don't go further. So the big question for us, how to do a better job? Other studies show almost the same thing from SMEs' uses of AR. For example, the work of VAM Reality project funded by Europe show that companies know the potential of AR, but as you see, they don't use it. Of course, there are many reasons why SMEs don't continue AR project, and you should know them well, like it's too complicated, it's too costly, I don't have time, and so on. But to be effective, we think that the two main problems are the simplicity and the availability of our experience. I want to share with you some concrete uses of AR in SMEs, mostly from Rapro member. No wow effect in the three following cases, but real results. First example comes from Rehabs Consulting with the group Transpac. Transpac is a transport company with more than 1,000 buses. You understand easily that a bus should not be immobilized, otherwise it costs money. The problem are to repair bus everywhere as fast as possible, and of course without the right expert, because there are not so many. How to do that? It's simple, in fact. Put an expert in any bus, remotely available at the right time, thanks to remote assistance. There are so many solutions available, and it's easy and cheap to create a functional proof of concept. This project was completed in 2 months, and the return of investment is expected in less than 1 year. There are many solutions for remote assistance, but I want to put a focus on sharing from Immersion, a French company, because it's a free-to-use solution and it's very simple. We all know that remote assistance is a very important tool for SMEs. It allows to offer an high-quality customer services even for a small company, and so it helps to dramatically increase the market size. With tools like sharing, it's easy to explain why it's important and immediately give a concrete solution to use. Second example comes from XR Plus and the project Carbon Detox. It's not really for SME, but it's interesting to see how easy the development was. It could be adapted to anyone who wants to show intangible or invisible things. The goal here is to show what a CO2 footprint is, to understand, of course, how to reduce it. Of course, it will use AR. But the main point for me is the time used to go from the idea to the final product. Look, only 4 months. It is possible because of the platform of XR Plus. It's no code, it's simple, and it's based on a freemium economic model. Again, it is perfect for an SME because you can easily transform an idea to a valuable product and test it without any risk. My last example comes from Museum of Prehistory of Totavel in south of France. It's a small institution with many well-known challenges, how to attract young people, how to be more resilient after the pandemic, and so on. The museum chooses to use immersive technologies, but step by step, for 2019 to now. Thanks to the technical solution of Real Illusion, a French company, it was possible to imagine a long-term development with many steps, but also a real agility in the way to manage it. We think in ARAPRO that the capability to imagine an AR project as an addition of several steps is very important for SME, because you can adapt the solution to customer feedback. You can slow down or speed up the development depending on the SME situation. And the most important thing, XR becomes a strategical part of the company in the long term. To conclude this presentation, let us show common points of the 3 previous examples and the key rules we discovered during this 10 last year in ARAPRO. First, experiences have a small and well-defined perimeter. Many projects fail because they are too big. For SMEs, a too large perimeter can be scary. The added value is simple to understand for the customer, but also for the final user. It's a key point to measure the success and the return on investment. Success means other project. It is possible to begin with a very small cost or free. I don't say that every project should be free, but for SME, a pay-to-view strategy is complicated, I think. It's possible to complete the experience after the beginning. XR should be a long-term strategy for SMEs, but at their own rhythm. As you see, for us, information is not enough. People need a tool, a package, or a services to begin. We think that public funds should be dedicated to create common tools and never found a one-shot experiences if there are no concrete next step. To enter a new area of XR uses, more mature, more useful, with a deep connection with company data, we think, these key rules, and we have to encourage it. Many thanks for your attention.
Thank you as well, Gregory. I see there are quite a few questions going on. Just to clear things up, we will do more like a panel style at the end, because a lot of the questions can be answered actually by our panelists here. So I think it would be just a better idea to simply ask them to everyone. And in case there are very specific questions, of course, we can still take them at the end. For now, I would love to hear from you, because now you also saw a few applications. Indeed, they were from SMEs, so then they were at a smaller scale. You also have the experience with AR in your own personal life, so in the apps that you have used before. But what impact do you think it will have in the industry? We did cover the impact on society, so we saw some of your fears and hopes on that sense. But what do you think will happen to European industry? How will this be affected? We would love to hear this from you. And then maybe Anne might have a few words of your thoughts. Anne?
Yeah, I'm looking at the screen to see what's happening there. I mean, it's mainly about skills for the moment. Safety, prototype design. I let people put their thought before I draw conclusions. And thank you, Gregory, for your speech. I think it was a good introduction to this question, because it really showed that there are quite many things that can be done, at industry and even more SMEs level. Sometimes when you need something really specific, you can probably develop relatively quickly a small tool that can help with certain precise questions. So I mean, that's what it is also about, being competitive in a way. So I see competitiveness appearing as well, cost saving. I think it's interesting because it's kind of different things, and everything is valid there. I mean, we probably have maybe a deeper discussion during the panel about this, but I mean, the skills is really one of the problem that might come, as I already mentioned in my presentation. But then indeed, it might be used for increasing efficiency in different places, and I mean, to increase the productivity as well. I mean, prototype design, as I said already, with digital twins, this is gonna be something relatively important. And what is also, I mean, we have to remember is that it's about technological solutions, but also sometimes about business models efficiency. So you can do things differently if you use AR than the usual way we do it, which can bring also cost saving through a different angle. So many different things there.
Indeed, quite a few, and thank you again for your thoughts. And speaking of of Gregory's intervention, it is now 1:30 at where he's located. So we thank him for his efforts in being with us now at this hour. I know it's not easy, and he's doing it for a good cause. So really thank you for the efforts today. Now, to go further ahead, we have seen your thoughts on the industry. Unfortunately, again, Theodoros will not be here. So we will move now to Natasha Paulson, the founder of 4DR Studios, and she will talk to us about real people in virtual worlds. Please, Natasha.
Thank you. Yeah, so real people in virtual worlds. That's my topic of today. Um, and just to give you a little bit of an introduction, I started already 12 years ago. I started a company called Dutch Rose Media, and it was focused completely on augmented reality. So over these last 12 years, we've seen all kinds of concepts for all kinds of industries using augmented reality. I think there's not one like that we haven't in some way been working on. And what we saw is that augmented reality basically provides people with a 3D world to tell your stories. And this is, to me, is the like one of the main things that you have to remember about augmented reality. Over the centuries, we've never had this. We had the actual world, but for telling stories that were not actually happening at that time, there was no way to tell them in 3D. And since our world is 3D, we are organized 3D. So what you see is that people have a lot of difficulties translating something that they see in 2D to 3D. And being able to do that will change things. So that's one of the elemental things about augmented reality. The other thing is that augmented reality will be like the internet leaving the computer and taking place in the world around you. So augmented reality is also very spatial in that sense, that you're not tied to one location and that you can enhance, augment your world around you. And when you look at augmented reality like that, you know that it will not be a hype, right? So we were telling these stories in augmented reality, and we wanted people in our stories. But there was no way for us to put people in an augmented experience. We could like embed 2D people, but then when you walk around, you immediately see it's 2D, magic is broken, story is broken. We never had the budgets to do real animation, and real animation being like starting from scratch in 3D and developing stuff. All kinds of tools are being developed right now to be able to do that, but it's not real. We feel that it's not real. And once we feel it's not real, we don't buy the story. So, yeah. Then I saw this new technology called volumetric video, and I thought, that's something. I want to be able to use that. And there was nobody doing that in the Netherlands. So I ended up founding my own volumetric capture stage. And it looks something like this. Where is it? That's funny. There it is. It looks something like this without the smoke. So let me start by telling you that the one thing that we can't do is capture smoke, but we can capture real people. It's called 40 Studios. It's located in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, and it's one of the few stages worldwide where you can capture in the quality that we do, capture real people. Okay, so why do we need real people? Well, it actually turned out that the problem that we were facing in augmented reality is something that is a much larger part of a much larger problem. And when you want to tell a story, people are part of that. And there's 3 ways to actually create real people in virtual worlds. So there's chroma key, motion capture, and volumetric capture. Just to give you a little overview, you probably know or have heard about the first 2, and I'm guessing for most of you, volumetric capture is still new. I would hope not, but I'm working on that. So chroma key looks like this. And you create a flat 2D video that you can use. All right. I will keep these examples very short. If you want to see more, there's loads of links I can show you. Motion capture works from the start in 3D, but it doesn't capture the image of a person. It captures the movement, and it only captures the movements on the joints that you use. I don't know if any of you saw the Everstar series that was launched last Friday on Dutch television. Chances are slim, I'm guessing, but they used live motion capture. And then you have volumetric capture that involves multiple cameras and sensors, and that's basically what we do. So that looks a little bit like this. Well, that's not all that. So basically what we do here is we film people from all sides, and then in post-production, all the green and all the background is removed, and you end up with a 3D video quality model. Okay, so that about technology, right? So why we need real people in the metaverse? Because people can best be convinced by other people, and people play a very, very large part in every story that we tell. Oh, almost skipped the best part. I want you to try it for yourself, because when I show you the end result of volumetric video, you will think that we've edited it or we did whatever. But if you do it for yourself, then you can see that I'm not talking, that I'm not making up things. This is something that is so easy that you can all do it right now. So what you will see if you scan the QR code, which is actually one of the, I mean, I'm looking for the positives, right? One of the best things that came from COVID is that we don't have to explain anybody anymore what a QR code is and how to scan it. When you scan it, you download a demo app called HoloMeet, and you immediately are pointed to the right collection of holograms that I wanted to share. I should have kept my phone with me so I would have an indication of how long it would take.
I'm trying it right now, actually. Then you do need to install the app. So wait for the app is downloaded, give permissions, etc. And then I'm still waiting at the intro screen. So the idea was to actually do something interactive right now then.
Yeah, people can try it. I mean, I can talk a little bit further about all the other things. As long as you have the QR code scanned, then you will be able to do it. I know it's working because I've seen this. People do this. This is like when it's easier to have a live audience, because then you will see people using their phones and trying to enlarge the image, and so they have a huge virtual people in the room. I know they are there, but now you all are virtual, so I can't really see you. Anyhow, so I kind of borrowed some data from the EU. Just to show a little bit of the topics that we were talking about before, that indeed gaming with 29% is the largest currently for application for AR and VR, followed by media and entertainment. So both of them together is almost half of the entire market currently. And then we have like retail, healthcare, military and defense. I didn't hear that one before. And manufacturing, we already talked about. The thing is, there's also a similar overview of VolCap, so volumetric capture, which we shorten. Volumetric capture is such a mouthful, we shorten it to VolCap. And again, like sports and events and media and gaming, medical, education and training, which is sort of mentioned before, but also marketing, so signage and advertisements, and a little bit of others. So if we compare the two, we see that, well, at least my interpretation is that they are quite the same. So gaming, media and entertainment is about sports and events. And what you see with volumetric video is about people, right? I'm talking about real people in virtual worlds. So we have in sports, event and media, you have like your heroes, your idols, and with volumetric video, you can have your idols close with you, which is something that is very important to us people. And healthcare and medical is, I think, is the same. Anyone can challenge me on that. I think you can have a discussion. And what I thought is that military and defense and manufacturing is a lot about education and training as well. What we see is that training in military defense and manufacturing is a lot about making sure that people are more flexible in the skill set that they have. There's a huge war for talent currently going on, which is actually, and I'm not sure that that's EU-wide, but at least in the Netherlands, it's about the practical skill level. And on the practical skill level, almost everything in the Netherlands is in Dutch and not in other languages anymore. And for people with practical skills, it's changing language is already like an obstacle that they need to overcome. And so there are many more. So you need to train on the job. You need to be able to do the remote support. So your workforce becomes more flexible. This is like a very, very important thing for VR, AR, and volumetric video, because you need people to train other people. And then I was, I want to make my list like fitting. So I thought, well, retail must be signage and advertisement then. There's a lot more, but you see that where you can use volumetric video, it kind of matches with the overall market overview for VR and AR. So when I started this volumetric capture stage, you have to remember that we were the first in the Netherlands. Actually, the one closest by was one in London, and well, since the UK, it's like not even EU anymore. It kind of feels further away. So we needed to. How do you go through your first year, right? We didn't have the budget to just keep ourselves afloat, so we needed to do something to tell people about what we were all about, what volumetric could be doing for them. And we organized Chronosphere. So I put up the entire marketing budget as co-funding for a research project. And in that research project, also supported by RVO and Metropoolregio Eindhoven. In that research project, we were able to create 20 productions in all kinds of application areas, showing what volumetric could do in each application area. And we worked together with over 50 partners in the 2 COVID years. Like, you have to remember, we started in December 2019, so just a few months before COVID hit, and we were a startup in COVID times, which is normally like an end of business. But thanks to this research program, we were able to go forward anyhow. Okay, so I have 3 examples from Chronosphere. This is an example called Bias Buster, where you are in a room with real people. It's one of the earlier examples. And you are confronted with your own biases. So if you had looked around in the room, you would know that the woman is actually the boss that you're supposed to meet. But over 50% of participants got it wrong. Meeting people in this case, augmented reality and volumetric video, it's an actual benefit. Also, if you look at the wheelchair, you might think that the wheels of the wheelchair are not perfect, not all the spokes are visible, but I don't think that there's any doubt in your mind that this is an actual person. And that's what's important to us, not the theoretical quality of the image. No, it's about what we feel and whether this is a person or not. Okay. One of the other projects in Chronosphere is about a living history project. Again, no doubt in your mind that this is a real person. So you see that the user is actually the cameraman, right? So stop it for a moment. What you see is that in the case of Maastricht, is that this model was created by the French when they liberated Maastricht from the Dutch. They created this model by King Louis to show, the kind of cities that he had liberated. And that model that we recreated digitally, and then we are now telling stories in it. So what you see is that like 15, 14-year-olds consider this to be a game. And they spent over an hour in history lessons, and by the end they know everything about the subject, what it was like to live in 18th century Maastricht. So these type of historical lessons work. On the slide now, you see a virtual reality version of emergency care training in small bathrooms. And in this project, they found out that, okay, for skills level on the first levels, when you still need to learn all the cognitive points about the ABC approach for emergency care. I like ABC. I think that's a Dutch abbreviation, like ADEM, so breathing, check your blood, check your those kind of things. So when you still need to learn it on that level, the volumetric video doesn't provide any benefits, additional benefits. But when you're on the next level, when you're interested about, okay, how does an expert move the patient? Where do they leave the bag? How much force is used here? And how do you handle the family that's obviously panicking when somebody's ill? So again, I don't think that there's any doubt in your mind that these are actual people. Now, whenever you need actual people, this is when you need volumetric video. And once you've seen this, I'm positive that you will think of loads of applications where you could use this type of medium. Okay, so in the research project, we researched the immersiveness of volumetric video and we compared it to traditional media. What you see is that immersiveness is up quite high on all scales. So these scales are from the ITC SOAPI test. I think the most important part probably is the negative effects. So volumetric capture is lowest on the negative effects, so no motion sickness. It's because you completely accept that the person that you see is real. And then that takes away the negative effects of anything else. Engagement is maybe still a little bit lower. That's because the volumetric in the current state, it is as it is. It's no fake. So there's no AI moving the person. It is the movements of the actual person. So we cannot make a person do anything else than they've actually done in our studio. So it's so real, we can't fake it. And this is something that because people normally think that, okay, so it's digital, so you can make the person do anything. That with our technique currently is not possible. And in the end, you will have use cases that will use puppets, avatars, that can be controlled completely, and you will have volumetric on the other end of the scale, and there will be in-betweens. But this is something that's still in progress. So one of the projects also that we've been working on is the Imaginary Friends. It will go live on the film festivals this year. And the first people that viewed the experience said the following quote: "I don't think I've ever felt more connected to a virtual being than to that 3D boy." And that to us was really, really all we were trying to achieve. Hey, where's my photo? That's my photo. So with that, goodbye from the crew. Well, or at least some guests of our studio. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share this with you.
Definitely, Natasha. Thank you as well. Maybe just shortly, because you still have the slide open, is it still possible to go back to the slide with the chroma key? Because we still have a question between the difference between a chroma key and the volumetric video.
Okay.
Oh, there, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
There it is. So a question about the difference between chroma key and volumetric. It's both green, just but that's the only thing that they have in common. With chroma key, you film from a traditional film camera, and you film from one angle, and you remove the green in the background. With volumetric video, you film from all angles at the same time. And the green is only there because, well, it could have been blue or yellow or whatever we wanted. And green in the beginning seemed the best, but it could also be white. It doesn't matter. As long as the background is vaguely uniform, we can remove the background from the cameras. So that's the technical difference. I don't know if that answers the question or whether there was more to it.
Yes, I think it does. And can the volumetric video be used live? Because we saw the app using, the room live in that sense.
Yeah. So we normally, when in the highest quality, it will take us 3.5 hours to render 1 minute of volumetric video. But there's also an option to go live, and then you get the live image with a 10-second delay, which is live enough for broadcasting, not live enough to have a bidirectional conversation as we are having right now. But you can work around that. But in the broadcasting producer will know how to work around this time difference.
Okay. And then one last question on this. So then the technology used in the movies when we see, the creating of Lord of the Rings or whatever, when we see them in blue suits with sensors on, would that be
That's
still fit? Yes.
Yeah, that's the motion capture part.
So that's
So if
motion
you
capture. Okay.
so if you want to create a creature, like for example in the Lord of the Rings, it's a creature that's not human, so we can't really film it. So then you film the motion, and then you add the external features later on. If you do that using humans, we will immediately see that motion capture doesn't capture all 140 different muscles in our face and all muscles in our hands, which is what gives us emotion. So that is very hard to capture using motion capture and much easier to capture using volumetric capture.
I see. Then it will be something to, because you mentioned that it's easier when the audience is live. So then who knows, in the future, we might have the audience gathering there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I normally talk with my hands and feet and walk around the podium,
Yes.
but
Uh-huh. Clearly we gathered so much from the non-verbal, and it's somewhat of a pity that we cannot do it live, but at the same time, in terms of accessibility, because this was also mentioned, it does have its advantages. We can reach more people that can see us, that they don't have to go here. So there are some advantages. And happy to hear the name of Eindhoven as well. I lived there for 5 years, part of TU Eindhoven, so I'm really close to the city. And I'm a big fan of everything happening there, so happy to hear the name.
Thank you. All right, I'll stop sharing now. If I can find out how to do that.
Yes. So meanwhile, we did gather quite a few questions, and we have more the generic ones. I only covered a few questions now for Natasha because they were extremely specific. So the following questions will be mostly for everyone. Meanwhile, we have also asked you if after you saw everything today, and of course after, for some of you which have already been using AR, if you feel more inclined to use AR after this session. Anne, would you have anything to say about the replies up until now from the audience?
There seems to be yes with different variations, but that sounds encouraging that we did not lose our time this morning.
Definitely, indeed. The replies are pretty much yes, indeed, with quite a few mentions that some of you would like to have some tutorials or some more education on the matters, or pretty much for someone helping you a bit on how to actually use it. So indeed, this is part of the whole trip. We do need also to make them accessible, the technology, and in this accessibility, we also need to pay a lot of attention to the introduction part of how we introduce the technology, how we make it understandable, and this session today is also part of that effort in trying to understand more of augmented reality is. So going now to the questions for everyone, maybe just to start with the easier ones, because there's still a bit of confusion between AR and VR. I'm wondering if you could very shortly explain, like the three of you, how would you explain augmented reality to a 7-year-old or to a 10-year-old? Natasha, Gregory, Anne?
So to a 7-year to a 7-year-old, that's easy because they are still in that magical world where they believe everything. So you don't need to explain what augmented reality is. It's like, the word as you would like to see it, where your dinos are walking around and you see your Pokemon heroes walking around. So that's the easy part. But when you get older, it gets more difficult to explain it. But I always say that you have VR on the one side with this, which is 100% digital world where you live in, and you have the real world on the other side of the scale, where there's only physical stuff going on. And augmented reality is just in between. So you have the real world, but you also see digital images in it. And yes, we have to use some kind of technology, be it a headset, be it a mobile phone, be it whatever, the tech guys will invent in the future, like maybe contact lenses or whatever. You need some kind of help to see the digital world. That's it.
Got it. Gregory, do you also want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I think the description is perfect. As you said, I'm used to seeing the difference between AR and VR by the same concept, the real world. In fact, when you use AR, you are in the real world, and no matter if you have a Pokemon on your desk, it's basically on your desk. When you are in VR, you are in another world, and not the real world around you. You are anywhere, but in a virtual world. And basically, for me, it's the difference.
And speaking of VR, then, because it has been mentioned quite a while, and someone from the audience feels that AR is more like a secondary technology with less applications, would you have an estimation or of the future, or at least for the present, which one has more use cases? Which one do you see being more popular? Which industry do you think is going to use it more between AR and VR?
It's extremely difficult to answer. I don't know if AR is less popular, but in fact, when you use a filter on Instagram, on TikTok, on any application, you use AR and you don't know the name, no matter the name. When you think about virtual try-on, virtual makeup, many people use this application for years, and I think they don't know that is AR. And it's quite a good thing, in fact, because the technology is not the important point. You can use VR without knowing that you can use ER, and you don't know that is ER. It's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Augmented reality will be more transparent in use, so you won't notice it. Like, do you still notice when you use electricity? I don't know. And then, like, the counter question also is, VR is doing this. You're watching. Well, you're in your own world. So how much of the day will you be spending like this instead of simply watching the world around you? So if you know that, like, this will be only an hour of your day, this will be 23 hours. How many AR applications do you think there will be versus VR applications? It's a question.
Clearly, I mean, based on this, it is a step forward, because in any type of adoption, when you are more fully familiar with at least parts of the technology, you tend to be more open to adapting it. So then it does make sense that AR would be more open to be accepted by the wider audience. And indeed, I have, parents using filters, not only kids, as you would see maybe with VR headsets. So is this what you mean with covering the eyes by naturalness?
Exactly.
Because you mentioned
in
naturalness.
VR, yeah, true. In VR, you are completely disconnected from your real environment. So the amount of time during the day that you will be able to that you will be wanting to spend with your eyes close to your actual surroundings, I think will always be limited. At least I hope so, because what kind of world do you live in when people only have their VR headset on? I'm not really a big fan of that. I know that there are people that are used to using VR and that they can spend 2, 3, maybe 4 hours in VR. But yeah, using my phone, I already am on my phone like 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and it doesn't cost me anything. Well,
Indeed, because we actually also had someone asking about this regarding, because I think both of you mentioned hardware a few times, and in that sense, for AR, in theory, the hardware would be more accessible as well because we already have phones. Is there anything else that you want to mention regarding hardware when it comes to AR?
well, over the last 12 years, we've been doing mobile AR, so only using phones. It is still a little bit like looking through a keyhole to an augmented world. So it will be much easier once the headsets get there. But you have to remember, you can have the technology, you can have the hardware, but you also need the excellent content. So we are working on the concepts right now, and we see that people are responding to the concepts through mobile AR. So once the headsets get there, it will only be better. But the content is already there. So the living history stories that we tell, or the fashion shows that we do, the trainings that we organize right now, they already work very well, and it will only be better once the AR headsets arrive.
And by AR headsets, because this is also one of the questions, do you mean the type of glasses that we see, like Google Lens, etc.? Or
that type of glasses, indeed. I'm like a big Apple fan. So I'm guessing once Apple launches their headsets, everything will be solved. But yeah, there's a discussion going on there, and with Microsoft aborting the HoloLens, that was a bit of a setback.
so speaking of the market or the big players, Anne, would you have anything to add regarding the market right now in Europe?
The market itself, maybe not, but I mean, coming back to the headsets, I mean, we also have two flagship companies developing extremely good headsets in Europe, namely Lynx and Vario. I mean, they are taking a different approach from the mass production that most probably the other one will take, and the current existing one from our dear friends from Meta, Oculus is an example of this. So Vario and Lynx are creating headsets for very professional applications where you really need a certain quality. And I mean, for professional use, it's certainly much better than the one that are currently available, which are more probably targeting entertainment and so on. Now, the question is how it will be in the future, whether indeed the winner will be Apple, Microsoft, or Samsung, or whoever. I mean, I cannot predict. I don't know. What we know at European level is that we are funding the development of hardware in Europe, made in Europe, because of course the basic components are not produced in Europe, but okay, we have things done a bit differently. The CHIPS Act, is there as well to help us, producing and building these things more at home than outside. When it comes to market projections, I mean, most of the time when you find statistics, they don't make very much the difference between AR and VR. They put everything in the same bag. Whether it is under the extended reality bag or the metaverse bag, it's a bit according, I think, to how people feel about it. This is why I come back to my slide where I try really to define things. It's important to define because when you talk, about it precisely, you don't mean the same thing if you say virtual reality or augmented reality. But in practice, all these things are very much in the same bag, and people talk a bit about everything indifferently. So,
So speaking of this, what because we have a question which got upvoted, what is the metaverse to us, the European Commission? How do you see it?
well, we don't see it as the metaverse, first of all. We see it as metaverses, plural, and it's very tightly linked to virtual worlds, plural as well. So if you go back to the exact formulation from President von der Leyen, it's virtual worlds such as metaverses. So the idea is that, we don't want, and there is not, despite the attempt of, once again, one famous company to claim that they are the metaverse, this is not true at all. There are plenty of metaverses out there. I think our two speakers have shown some of them. You have virtual worlds developed by many different players. It's more the way we see it. It's more about making sure that all these blocks can be interoperable and can connect to each other. And then, for example, if you develop your avatar in one world, you can port it to another world, and you don't have to each time recreate yourself on the long term, of course, not today, but this kind of things. So this is how we see it. It's not like we are trying to develop a competitor to whatever Meta will develop, because also, despite their claim, there is nothing there yet. And it's more about putting things together.
Clearly, this is just a technology, a use case, and indeed more are using it, and trying to coin the term in itself is, yeah. What can I say? Maybe do you have any insights on our action plan, or do you have any roadmap about initiatives about the virtual worlds or metaverses?
Yeah, so I
The
saw
Commission?
many asking about. Well, I'm going to disappoint many people because it's still very much work in progress. So, until this is official, we cannot really share much. What I can say, however, is that this will clearly be a non-legislative initiative. So it means that this will not be a regulation or directive. This will most probably be a communication. And maybe attached to this communication, a couple of other things, or plans to have other things a bit later on. So I come back to the 3 pillars. So we will basically try to indicate what things need to be done at EU level to make these things happen when it comes to people, to technologies, and to infrastructure, which means that we need to make sure that we are not duplicating efforts at EU level. It means in between different member states, so that we don't fund the same things all of us individually. We put efforts together, but also between programs. So we need many different things to make it happen. On different disciplines, on different technologies. So also at EU level, we need to have a kind of stock taking of what we have developed so far, where we are on different domains, and how we put things together. So to make it maybe a bit more clear, it's about copyright, for example. There is an awful lot of work that has been done in the last years on copyright for digital that we need to see how it can be included and enhanced. It's about also everything which is about the next generation of internet, about the connectivity needed. Would it be for the gigabit or for the 6G? So all these things will need to be, I would not say optimized, but put probably in a roadmap where we can see where we are still missing things, where we can do it better, or if we are already doing it well. So this is the kind of things that are on the agenda for the time being. But once again, this might change. What I would like also to mention related to this initiative is that we are heavily consulting the external stakeholders for the time being. So we already have many workshops with industries, associations, and so on. Last weekend, we were in Brussels for the first instance of a citizens panel. So we will have 3 weekends in Brussels where we discuss with citizens. So it's a panel of 150 citizens randomly chosen, but statistically relevant, proposed by member states. And we discuss with them what are their expectations, their fears, and how we can make sure that all these things meet, the requirements from citizens to be useful. So this is something important as well. And in the next 2 weeks, most probably, there will be also a consultation launch online, where we will gather the information of the public at large. It means, stakeholders involved in the domain, but also anyone who would be interested to submit its contribution, so that, people can give their ideas about, what they would like to have and to see. And all this will feed the communication that hopefully should be ready before summer.
Understood. I think this also partly answers the question that we have regarding what support should the Commission bring regarding AR innovation and uptake. I mean, much of the things were already mentioned by you, Anne. Is there anything else that pops into your mind, or?
Well, we are already funding quite a lot. It's nearly 200 million in the last 2 years. So just for XR and related technologies. So whether it will be more in the future, unfortunately, I'm unable to say. It depends on many different parameters, which are far, far above my pay grade. But we will keep on funding research, and what I think will happen as well, and we will see it soon in the next work program of the Digital Europe program, is also that we are going to maybe gradually move to deployment as well. So not only fund research, we are funding already quite a lot of innovation, but we will also start funding deployment, the natural evolution of the value chain. And we are also investigating how we could maybe finance startups and SMEs better. So not only on the research or deployment angle, but clearly also on the purely financing angle. So that's something we are currently investigating as well, to really cover as much as possible the spectrum of applications there.
Mm-hmm. That's a good mention. And maybe also for Natasha and Gregory as well, the following question: what do you think needs to happen in Europe in order for the European AR VR market to be competitive with the US or the global market?
Hard one.
Yes.
If you look at the latest news from the US, with all the technical layoffs that they have, which have also hit the AR and VR departments from those companies, I think that the approach I can't generalize too much, but at least the approach that we are choosing in the Netherlands, to focus on content instead of focusing on technology, is proving much more resilient to economic changes than focusing on the technology alone. If you focus on the technology alone, then the bridge to practical applications is kept intact, and you need the content. And in the end, I mean, if you look at the media world, who's making more money, right? The guys who create the televisions, or the guys who and girls who create the television programs. So focusing on content, that's really important. That's also what I see has been going on an EU level. I really truly support that. And then the challenge is to combine creatives and tech. So invest in studies where you can learn to be both creative and technical. I think that's on the long term is a one really important thing.
You, Gregory, because you have your foot on the ground in real terms.
Yeah, I
What are your
totally
views?
agree. I'm totally agree. Content is very important, and obviously in France, in Europe, we are quite good in creating content. So it's a good thing. But if content is important, I think we have to look at the technological part, because okay, I'm agree with the example of the TV, but unfortunately today, when you talk about Meta sell the TV, the program, and the right to be on the TV. So it's difficult to avoid this question of technology. Yeah, I think it would be much more simpler to put content on Links headset than on Meta or Pico headset. And just a few just a point on regulation. It's very important. Regulation in terms of law, and also in terms of norms, standard. I think we at the European level have to be more active in the standardization of so-called metaverse, because as you know, when you have a norm, it's difficult to ignore it. So I think the better way is to build it and to create, to contribute to build a norm with our, I can say, our cultural point of view. It means that in Europe, in Asia, or in USA, we don't have the same point of view about the development of this technology, about the place of human being in this technology, about the personal data usage and something like that. So it's very important, I think, for us to be present and to share our view on standard and normalization.
Clearly, and what this also shows, because we have a comment about it, that because the content coming from the US does get more attention in the media, that definitely does not mean that we are dormant in the area, and we see different opportunities and different actions taking on so many steps, not only on content but also on legislation, as Gregory mentioned. Speaking of this legislation, we already have rules pertaining to digital gaming, more or less. Would the same legislation apply to virtual worlds or to AR, to augmented reality, or would then we still need to develop those existing ones?
Yes, it's for me that. I mean, we have things in place for gaming, but not only. Yeah? We have the Digital Single Market Act, the Digital Service Act. I mean, we have quite a few there. The coming AI Act, I already mentioned the CHIPS Act as well. We have, of course, the GDPR. We have the Digital Decade Principles. We already have quite a wide set of regulations in place, where we have many things that are absolutely valid for as a survival kit in virtual worlds and metaverses. So the need for a regulation, it might come in the future, but for the time being, it's not on the agenda, because I mean, Europe is already quite at the front line of this kind of digital regulations, and we already have quite a lot in the pipeline to help us. So let's try not to make things also too heavy and too difficult, because then too much regulation kills innovation and kills regulation as well. So for the time being, it's not on the agenda.
And I would also like to visit a virtual bar pretending to be a 28-year-old man. Really.
Just to see what it is. Yeah.
Understandable. But are there any industries which help giving you feedback of what to do in the future, which are more active than others? Any specific ones which pop in your mind? Because you mentioned the citizens panel, but that's on a citizen level. But are there any specific?
We had well, first of all, it's not only limited to the consultation that we have been organizing the last 2 months. We are in regular contact, of course, like many of our colleagues are also in contact with relevant industries in the different fields for like 2 years, I think. We have been discussing with them. I mean, we have the AR/VR coalition I mentioned, where we have, we really encourage industries who are willing to take an active part to be part of it. So you can go on the website if you want and see the list of people that are there. We have roughly different kinds of industries. I mean, I don't want to highlight one specifically here because this would be unfair, but we have the telecommunications companies, we have the large, manufacturing companies in different sectors where they see the need and they are already developing their own stuff. We have more like startups and SMEs who are interested in developing more targeted applications. We have the CCI, the content and creative industries, which are also very active on the domain. So we really have different kinds of people there, and we talk to many, to be honest.
And for interoperability standards, because we also have a question on this.
Well, the standards is a tricky question because there are, for the moment, many initiatives going in all directions. Would it be in standardization bodies, but also private initiatives led by private companies? And these private companies are most of the time American or Asian. So the question remains for the moment exactly which one we are going to support and how. So we are keeping an eye on everything. We are trying to get involved, to encourage European partners to get involved too. And let's see how it develops, because I don't have a clear answer for that we can already point to one specific.
Okay, understood. Maybe also for Gregory as well, but of course for everyone, for smaller companies or for SME startups, etc. In this, let's say, jungle of regulations, is there any specific things that pops into your mind which could help ease your work or you could benefit from? Is there any specific area which you see?
Maybe the first things in mind is remote assistance. I think it's a well-known domain, well-known usage, and so few SMEs use it. When you think about benefits of remote assistance, is crazy. In fact, it's about your customer support. So if you sell anything, you could use this technology to help your customer to use it for many things, and you can use it for I don't know, for free if you use a solution from Image, and for I don't know 10 to 20 euros per month when you use solution from another European company like TeamViewer. So you can use it now, really now, to improve your customer support. It's really a simple example, but it's work. It's really work, and we have many examples in Era Pro of small company, really small company, for company of 10 to 15 people. And in these 10 people, for example, you have 2 experts. And with a simple solution of remote assistance, these 2 experts could explain, could help every customers everywhere in the world. It's crazy, in fact, when you think about it. So yes, use it. If you are a small company, yes, go use it.
There's also a second application that's almost there to use for everyone. If you sell products, there's the try before you buy, so like the IKEA option, which is also available through freemium applications. The thing is there that you need a 3D model of your product. So once you have that, then you're set to go.
Sounds pretty easy.
Just
but speaking, yeah.
Just to complete, it's funny because often you have these 3D models when you build something, and when you build a tool, a pump, I don't know why. Often you have these 3D models. So find it and use it.
And speaking of everyone, there is also a question on it. Do you know about any research on the impact of AR, XR, whatever, VR on the human body? Do you know any research being done on that?
There are a lot of researches about that. I mean, just go to Google and type. The thing is, there is not a definite research that we can use and point to. This is the one where, it depends also on so many different parameters about what kind of applications you use, what kind of devices you use, for how long, who, how. So it's still very much an open question, basically.
Excellent. So then maybe one last question before we wrap. So in order for AR to become mainstream, indeed, the technology in itself and applications, content, etc., need to be human-centric. This has also been mentioned multiple times or in various ways. What would that mean for you, for all of you three? What would human centricity mean in this technology for you, for it to become mainstream?
So for AR to become mainstream is that more people need to really see it. So if you have new technologies and you look into the adoption of new technologies, being able to share the experience is one of the major things that you need to organize. So I guess we need to be able to show it to more people. So if you have that guy dancing on your keyboard today, show it to other people as well. But we also need since like the availability of hardware at home is still limited, we should look into how can people experience it more. So we maybe we need something like the cinemas, what the cinemas did for the movies. We need VR cinemas, AR cinemas, like places where you can experience this with good quality content. So you have a really nice experience and then you think, this is not so bad. I want to use it here, there, that. And then it starts spreading. We need a way to spread the experience. If you talk about it, it's different than when you see it for yourself.
And Gregory? Human centricity for you?
Yeah, human centricity. For me, basically, I don't know if I talk about human. Another experience, has to be useful. I'm sorry, it's quite bad, but if you find something and you try it and you think, okay, it's useful for me, it's added value for my work. I talk about again industrial part and SMEUs and something like that. If it's useful. Okay, then I use it. This is the human centricity. And of course, there is another side of human centricity, is to trust in the application. And we're back to the concept of data privacy, safety, and something like that. But yeah, again, as you said before, use it, try it. If you don't know how to do, to go to, I don't know, association like Rapro and many other associations in Europe. Ask and try. It's the better way.
Indeed. And closing thoughts?
I agree with everything Natasha and Gregory said. At the end of the day, it's also about awareness, indeed. It's about explaining what it is, and so that people can make an informed decision on whether they want it, because they find it useful, or because they find it trustable enough, because they are confident it's not going to cause any problem. I think from the discussions we had with the citizens last weekend, I mean, there is such a fear, of people who are not aware of what technology can bring, that, these things could do plenty of terrible nightmare stuff, while basically when they start using it and you give them the opportunity to try, like we did today also with the application of Natasha, they suddenly see the use. They see that this is not such a big deal. Basically, this is not very different than using my GSM. Oh, but it can help me learning quicker something. It can help me with health. It can help me with work. It can help me talking to my friends. And then, gradually you build a sense of trust and usefulness, and then it will probably materialize at one point as one way of interacting. And to finish, I would like to say that there is also intrinsically a huge fear that it will replace human relationships. But at the end of the day, it's like any other technology we are using. It's about what we do with the technology. So I think we should consider it as one way amongst others to interact. But I don't think this is the intention of anyone who is developing these things, to make us live 100% of our time in a virtual world or in the metaverse. It's about being able to call for it when this is useful and there is a need, and we can trust it. That's how I would define human-centric.
Exactly. And with more needs, more use cases will come. So then that first step and that fear of new will be less and less, and more steps will be taken here in Europe, hopefully. So with this, I think we can close. Thank you for everyone being here. Thank you especially for the panelists, for your presentations and for your insights. Gregory, again, we don't forget it now. It's 2 a.m. at your place. So again, thank you for the efforts. For those of you which are still here, if you want to revisit anything, we will have a recording available, because there was a question on KISS method. And for those of you which have still questions unanswered, such as on the metaverses, etc., we will have future sessions on this as well. So keep your eyes open on the Digital EU Twitter account and on Futurium. Thank you again for everyone being here, and hope to see each other soon. Bye. Have a nice day.